And now, another InfoCar.cc podcast. That's excellent in podcasting. I'm your booth announcer, Gerard Cummings III. Here is your host for today's podcast, CEO of InfoCar.cc, Mr. Peter Brusso. Peter, take it away.
Thank you, Gerard. Appreciate the introduction. What you're about to hear, or in some cases see, is a talk that I gave at the City Club at Bunker Hill. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. Tonight, obviously, you have some take-homes. The disc we just finished called The Disc because we couldn't figure out what to call it. It is really an eclectic group of some very, very cool stuff that I don't think anybody's done before. So that should be, from a business standpoint, a really good takeaway for you. How many of you own iPods? Okay, we got a few. Okay, good. We're going to talk about a number of things, but how it deals with your business and how you can drive an incredible amount of traffic to your website or enhance your business and use iPods to actually showcase your business. Use it as a business tool, not as an entertainment tool. So we're going to cover a whole host of things, and she's going to give me a 10-minute, and I'll have to hurry up from where I'm not finished. But and feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. Podcasting. What is podcasting? How many people have listened to podcasts before? Okay. And typically, the rest of us don't know what the heck the big thing is about podcasting, or you see our young kids with iPods, and we think for music. But that's really the furthest thing from the truth. What an iPod does for people is it time shifts your material. They can take it with them and listen to it when they want to. So it time shifts and placement shifts your material. You don't have to be in front of a TV anymore or a computer any longer. And one of the big revolutions of podcasting is something called RSS feeds. And I actually brought my geek tie. If I get too geeky, tell me to put my tie on. Okay. But essentially, RSS feeds, for those of us that are old enough to remember when newspapers were delivered at our house, right? Essentially, when you find a podcast that you like, you subscribe to it. Now, what happens is that you boot your computer up, and we'll use iTunes, for example. iTunes knows what you subscribe to. It automatically goes out and finds out if there's a new episode for you. And as soon as you take your iPod and you port it, boom, presto bango, you've got the new episode that you're interested in listening to when you want it, okay? So no more like in Web 1.0 where people had to come to your website. That doesn't happen anymore. It's a total reversal of what we normally think of in business. We have to drive people to our site. Furthest thing from the truth. We have to drive ourselves into their iPod. That's what we have to do, or their MP3 player. Podcasting comes in many flavors. The basic podcast is all about you talking about what you do best, for example. There are podcasts on cooking. There's podcasts on technology. There's podcasts on religion. I mean, any possible thing that you could be interested in, somebody's out there creating a podcast for you to listen to. And if you don't like them, you unsubscribe and dump them. That's just that quick. They don't know. So podcasting, I think, how many people own their own business here? Okay. You all have something to tell, right? I mean, you have a business that does a certain thing. Why don't you podcast it? Podcasting, I'm going to take a lot of the mystery out of podcasting for you tonight, hopefully. And podcasting comes in two flavors. One is the audio podcast. The other one is a video podcast. Podcasting by nature right now is in its infancy. And video podcasting is in the Stone Age. It's still way behind where they need to go because it's a leg up on technology. It requires a little bit more. On the disc, there's a section in there where I talk about this, and I actually take you to one of the podcasts so you can listen to a video podcast. And I challenge you to go find some of these video podcasts via iTunes. We'll talk about that in a minute so you can kind of see their flavor. And one of the important things about video podcasting or even audio podcasting is if you start to do it, there's two things you have to have. There's two things that are really important. One is obviously your content, which should be no trouble to you at all because you're business owners, you know what you do. But two, you should be a little bit of a character about it. Who knows about viral marketing? Anybody, have you heard the term? Search engines. Anybody use Google? Raise your hands if you use Google. How'd you learn about Google? Exactly. You never saw a billboard, right? You never saw a TV ad. Who's old enough to remember Fuller Brush? Okay, all right. Fuller Brush was a virally marketed brush. Actually, that's not actually true. It's a The company cleaning products, right. And they'd come and they'd throw dirt on your carpet and you'd clean it up, or they'd clean it up and they'd leave a brush, and it kind of virally marketed itself around neighborhood to neighborhood. They were the only ones that really successfully used viral marketing until Google. And how did Google come overnight? And we can use this for our business. It's very simple. And I actually said I don't believe it, right? So I had to go out and prove it to myself. They hired, and I'm getting ahead of myself actually, but that's all right. They hired college students to go into their college chat rooms and chat with each other about how cool Google was. Two things happened. Other college students saw those threads and they went out to Google to see how cool Google was, to do their homework and find this and find that. But the search engines ate it up. And all of a sudden, the search engines use these forums and these types of things and blogs, we're going to talk about that in a minute, written blogs, as their fuel to categorize you, your site, whatever the keywords are you use. So almost overnight, they launched this campaign and they were swamped with business overnight. So I said, do I really believe that? Okay, I don't believe it. So I had a product, a martial arts product, nobody knew about. It was on one site, way far away in another galaxy. Nobody knew. Perfect candidate, right? If I could move this product quickly, then I'm onto something. So one of the guys, one of my students, who I actually had hired to work with me, he got on one computer that I had actually purchased for the Marine Corps. When they're out working with me, they get to work on that one. So he worked it and I worked it. We both went to 3 knife fighting sites, because it's a knife fighting thing, right? So they're highly focused, they're interested in the material. He signed up under 3 names and I signed up under 3 names. We came on at different times and we talked to each other about how cool this DVD knife fighting set was. And it was only offered in one place. That's back in a website called teachingsofthemasters.com. And within 3 days, we shut our site down. The ISP shut us down because there was so much traffic to that site. Sales went right through the roof, right? And we were like instant success overnight. We're on to something. So from a business standpoint, there are business forums. You can do the same thing. I wouldn't suggest you cheat like we did, but one of the greatest things is and it's in the disc, there's a linkable or clickable link in the disc that takes you to the smallbusinessforum.com. And you weigh in, you sign up, and it doesn't cost you anything. But as you start to be a contributor, people start coming to your site. So I did this before I started podcasting just to try and see how the forum thing worked. And I got about 250 unique visitors per month coming out of this thing. And I think you could drive a whole lot more traffic to your site just by spending 5 minutes a day, taking a look at these forums, and weighing in on the forum. So what I'm starting to suggest to you is, in fact, there is a way to swarm your potential clients. You don't want to come at them with one route. You want to come at them, imagine your client like a diamond. There's many facets. You want to come at them from every different facet, utilizing every tool you've got to get in front of them or get noticed or get a reputation, whatever that is. So we're going to come to what podcasting can do for your business. I started podcasting on 101 Marketing. Notice the clever, not Marketing 101. In search engines, numbers come up first. I thought that out. I'm a rocket scientist. I could figure that out, okay? So 101 Marketing. And I started putting up things that I normally do for InfoCard when I talk to my clients. When you have to educate your clients on how to do business and how they need to look at things and all the things I say every day, right? Well, you get tired after a while saying it every day. So I said, what if I had a tool that I could send a potential client to and say, download these things or put them on your computer and listen to them and then call me in 2 weeks, okay? Don't call me till you're all spun up. Don't want to talk to you. I drove in the side and I started, September, October. Roughly October. I now, as of to date, run about 15,000 unique visitors to InfoCard because of the podcasting. And I go, holy Toledo, how did that happen? And so it turns out we have about 7,000 subscribers in that length of time. Those guys go to iTunes and they download you, they subscribe, and it's pushed to them, and I got all the stats of where they come from and whatnot. So if you want to get people coming to your site, you want to get people to know your expertise and that you're the leader in this, or whatever persona you want to create for them, podcasting is an absolutely excellent tool to go use. Now, hand in hand with podcasting comes blogging. Who's heard of blogging before? I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I mean, can you imagine going on there and writing about your life every day? But I have much better things to do. I mean, that's the way I was thinking. And that all these podcast guys go, oh, you got a blog. Why would you want a blog? Well, you tie your show notes to the blog. Okay, so what? Oh, you can tie your show notes back into your site for that matter. Why would you want a blog? Turns out these big blogging places is exactly the fuel for these search engines again. Okay, they spider these things constantly. Anything new pops up, boom, spider. So I said, oh, okay. So I cleverly said, well, if I'm going to blog, imagine that at my age, blogging, my child's blogs, you know. But if I'm going to blog, then I'm going to put in all the keywords to my show, all the keywords to my business. I'm going to repeat InfoCart a whole bunch of times, right? And lo and behold, you shoot right up in the top of the search engines without ever paying a dime. So you tie your blogs to your podcast. Now, what's interesting, up to just recently, podcasts, so you talk and talk and talk, and you needed the blogs. But if somebody did a search, they might not find your podcast. It's just kind of depressing. You know, you spend that amount of time doing it, and nobody finds you. You submit it to a place called Podzinger.com. It's in the disk. Push the button, goes right there. You submit your podcast for free. They change the audio into written words and submit it to the search engine. So there you go. Now, every episode you put up gets blogged, it gets categorized by these search engines with your keywords. So when you do your podcast, make sure you mention your name several times. Make sure you mention your business several times. You know, do those things so that repeat things. Keywords scientifically designed. Don't just kind of guts it. Figure out what your keywords are for your business. You want to find on a search engine, entrepreneurs high on the list, business development. Oh yeah, that's good. You know, whatever it is you do, right? Interior design. If there's anybody here in interior design? I don't actually have an interior design client, so I use that as a sample all the time. But I'm sure if you were an interior design person, there's probably recognized artists and stuff, Gucci stuff or something on the walls you put, you know. And so you mention those because those get tied in with everything. So podcasting can be an incredible way to not only get people that will listen to you and bond with you, they'll email you questions, they'll use your services, they're more apt to use you over somebody that they don't know. So podcasting, wonderful tool, and it's in its infancy. So getting on it now is a good thing. Yes?
What's the average length you do?
That's a good question. It depends on what the subject matter is. Most of the time, people like to think of 20-minute segments. I commute from Anaheim to here. That's an hour. I like hour things. You get started, and by the time you get done, you've heard it. But you can, and some topics you need to do an hour. Other topics, an hour would be a death to you. You know, how to make a lollipop. Talk about that for an hour. You know, that'd be crazy. I could do that in 5 minutes. You know, so it really depends on your material, right? But also realize that podcasting is very much like direct mail campaign letters. Direct mail campaign letters, and we all get them, are 3 pages better or 12 pages better. Anybody want to weigh in on that one? Okay, who said 12? You're absolutely correct. And the reason 12 is if you're selling steaks, and these things are wonderful things, and they're, I don't know, Kobe beef and all that stuff, and you're a meat eater, you're going to want to know as much as you can about that beef. If you're a vegetarian, it doesn't matter whether it's 3 pages or 12 pages, it's going to go in the trash. So and you think about it, I always bring it back to sex. Okay, if you're interested in sex, well, you know, 12 pages or 3 pages? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out, now does it? So more information is always better. They can always turn it off. They can always not look at it. But if you're into cars, like I have an H1, anything comes out in H1, I want to know about a H1. So as much as I can get about that H1, right? Podcasting is by the topic matter is what I would counsel you. And you know your business better than anybody else does. What you'd like to say is a certain length of time, and it's got to be usable. And then, how do you make money on podcasts? That's actually not on the sheet, but I'm going to answer that because we're in business, right? If you get a big enough clientele that listens to the subscribers, you can actually have it sponsored by. You can get somebody to pay you some money to put their ad in there. A lot of these hosting services, which are in the disk, will actually go ahead and monetize you. They just stick an ad in the front or the back and you get paid for it. Or you can do it yourself. And you can say who you want. You know, if you're a vegetarian, you don't want Omaha steaks in there or something. You know, I mean, you can segment that. But that's one very good way of making money just off of ads, product placement, or premium, upsell. If they like what you're saying, make a DVD, make another thing that's a premium content that they can download. So that's just about podcasting. How do you find podcasts? Well, iTunes. Who's heard of iTunes? Oh, thank God. iTunes is the premium deliverer of podcasting. Out of the 7,000 that come to my site, 87% of them come through iTunes. The others find me from other various ways, but those are kind of eclectic. And so if you're going to do podcasting, do your podcasting and get it linked right over to iTunes and strap in, because then it starts to do its thing. And right now we're early adapters, and it's a good time to get into podcasting. It's a real good time to be thinking about video podcasting. Now, in the disc, I tried to put two extremes in video podcasting in the disc. One is called Beach Walks. She walks the beaches in Hawaii. She has a camera and she walks the beaches in Hawaii and she talks to you. She's got a huge following. Her style is, you know, she's a nice looking lady, walks the beaches in Hawaii, and you look at all this stuff, and she throws the ball for her golden retriever, and that's her style, and she's getting this little cult following behind her. The other extreme is Ask a Ninja. Has anybody heard of that one? Ask a Ninja. Funny guy. He's really not a ninja. I am a ninja, okay? So he's really not a ninja, but his style is like MTV. And he's in the disc. I could get him in the disc. So you'll get a chance to see two different styles of video podcasting for yourself. And again, I counsel there's two things. You got to have good subject matter, and you have to be a little bit of a character. The people want to know what's Marlene doing next. Wow, she had this great show. But she left us hanging like 24, you know. What's next? What's next? You know, you want to think those things out and have those little characters going for you before you get to turn the camera on. And as you go research the video blogging or video iPodding or podcasting, and you'll find just a plethora of styles and, you know, what you're comfortable with. Now there's this, that's video podcasting. That's you have something to sell, you want to tell it via video. Like interior decorating should not be doing audio podcasts, I don't think. I mean, maybe there's a mix in there, but because audio podcasts will clearly be listened to when you're on the road, but video, when you're on an airplane with nothing else to do, I'd sure like to look at that, and I've got some samples for you. So that's kind of fun. How do you do a podcast? What's the gear? Okay, and I actually don't answer that, but I'm going to answer it over here. Cleverly, it's not that hard. Now, you like to be one of my clients because I end up buying my clients a video iPod, an iPod. Everybody's kind of sort of seen a video iPod before, okay? And I change all of my material into this media so that...
Hi, welcome to City Club on Bunker Hill. I'm Larry Alquist, I'm the general manager. City Club was founded in 1989 as the first club in Los Angeles that has no history of discrimination.
I can show my work.
Now it has become the premier business club in Los Angeles.
And it looks pretty good.
Let us take you for a little tour to find out why we are the friendliest club
Not that
in Los
bad.
Angeles.
So you can actually, whatever you do, you carry this thing with you. And you say, oh, but you know, I don't always have these big old speakers that are actually kind of cool because they fold down. That doesn't take much to travel with. Okay, so we're in the bar. And I want to keep going here. You don't actually hear Larry, but we'll go back to when you can hear Larry. Not a bad job, huh? AAA battery. Not bad. Now, start thinking about how you can use this for your business. I think we're the first people to really start to show this kind of stuff. I've got, well, some of you know I work with David J. Wormlinger, and he's the guy that sits in front of the camera when we do our interviews. He's on House and a number of things, and this is David's resume card we put together. Get to it, hang on a second here. Push the right buttons. And so David carries a little resume card like what you see there. And This is a chunk of video that's on his resume card. A little risque, mind you, but that's what David was doing at the time, okay? And so he can turn around and show immediately what his work is, immediately, okay? David, we won't go further than that, but you can kind of see very quickly, you can do some very cool stuff with this. I have full length, well here's, these are the people that save our lives here.
Tan belt, punches, lead hand punch.
Marine Corps has their own martial arts system.
Hand punch.
Well, I'm introducing them how to train them in the field with an iPod. Let your head go right crazy now. I mean, there's Sloan turns out this 5-minute thing. I want to see it in an iPod. I don't. Yeah, absolutely, right answer. I want to listen to it in my car. Now, okay, so this is cool. How do you do this, right? Well, it turns out an iPod time shifts our material like we talked about. We can take it when we want and watch what we want. Here's a little device that plugs in the bottom that literally changes this into a voice recorder. And now you can actually do an interview. We'll actually start recording an interview. Now you notice it's stereo. I got one side, I walk this way. I've got 2 different little microphones here at the bottom. You too can podcast. But you can see, let's say you have clients, and you have a very satisfied client and wants to talk to you. You plug this in, right? And you're making an iPod, you're making a podcast, right? And this then ports right into your computer, and with free software from Audacity, which is also in your linked in your big disk there, you can process this into a podcast. Now that's not that hard to do, is it? I mean, theoretically, rocket science. So now let's say, okay, Russo, you lost it. I don't want to do this iPod thing. Well, we have this other little device here. This is called an Edirol R9. And it's one of the best products I've ever owned. And we actually have 2 microphones on either side. This will tape up to hours of MP3 high quality sound. And it's all of $500, okay? And will no doubt come down, but this is a premium tool you can use and carry with you to have an interview or talk about whatever you want. And so you take this with the little cable, or you take the flash card out and you stick it in your computer, and with Audacity you clean it up and you submit it to one of the sites that you can host your podcast on, which are also in the disk. There's a number of different sites that both host free and not free. Switchpod.com is one I use. I also use Blip TV. Now, some of you know that I created this thing called Member Connect, which we'll get to very last minute. But I want to be able to interview you and David J. Wormlinger talking about your business, right? And put that up on the web, searchable, inside a site just for members of the city clubs. So say you want to know anybody that does anything with multimedia. So you go in and you do a little search and you come up with him, he does multimedia, and you can watch his video interview. And you say, oh man, we got to do business. So you send him an email, say, oh, come back and look at your video interview with David J. Wormlinger and see if you don't see the same thing, right? And then if you do, let's meet at the club. I did the marketing piece for Bunker Hill, little CD-ROM. And I was sitting in Buena Vista Lounge and I was watching people, how they connect. And I thought, boy, if you have to meet people in the bar all the time, we better have a subscription model to AA, because we're all going to be alcoholics by the time we get done with this. There's got to be a better way. So by using this technology, our interviews, you can really capture. So you can do the same thing on your website now, utilizing these services that do podcasting, both video and audio, serve it directly onto your website. So it becomes a really cool tool, these do. Now let's talk about blogging or video blogging real quick. What is video blogging? Again, imagine yourself sitting in a dark room with your camera and it's on you and you talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. That's video blogging. Why would you want to do that? I don't know. I mean, gut-wise, I wouldn't want to do that. But it turns out if you have something that's kind of off-color, a little crazy, or get animated, you put it up on YouTube. Okay? And people start talking about it. And Oh, by the way, that same Podzinger site that translates everything into written word, they do that up there too. So all of a sudden, you can take these clips, like there's a lady that was on a diet, she's fixing her diet, and salad, that was it. Now, believe it or not, she'll get a lot of traffic off of something that stupid. Now, imagine if they get it off that stupid, imagine what we could do if we put a little brain power behind it, And you become an expert at something and you put it up on YouTube. So you start video blogging. And video blogging, again, feeds these search engines, and you video blog cleverly to drive everybody back to your site or wherever it is you want to drive them back to. And you do it for free, essentially, okay? The blogging does the same thing. Of course, so video blogging and blogging feed the search engines constantly. That's where they get the new material. If we all owned a search engine company, we'd be a little worried where we're going to get our stuff. So somebody the IT department better write some code to go out and find some stuff for us, right? Well, that's what they do. They go out and they find these blogs, and they find these video things, and they start categorizing them. And whether it makes any sense or not, they put it together at the other end. But that's how you can utilize some of that for your own business, these blogs. All of my presentations I travel with on here, literally, with one of these mobile devices now. I used to take, I still do take a computer because some of my stuff doesn't fit on an iPod, doesn't work right. Like my little disc has clickable sections in it. People buy for emotion backed up by logic. Let's not ever lose sight of that. It is absolutely true, okay? The clothes on your back right now, you wanted, well, was it a good deal? So people buy for emotion backed up by logic. So when you start talking, making your marketing pieces, or your video blogging, or your blogging, remember, emotion first, logic second. So when you start to put that together, whether it's blogging, video blogging, or your podcast, you want to make sure that you interlace your emotion backed up by logic going on. So I do almost everything on these things. I've literally converted every one of my clients over to utilizing this as a show and tell device for their business. What better? You put this in your pocket, right? What kind of work do you do, sir? Okay. What kind of lawyer?
You name it.
All right, well, that should go on here. I should know that I can. Okay, and so, but you can, when you start to talk to somebody, think about, Brad Coker and I do video together, or we do video and stuff, and I was telling Kerry, who used to be a VP at a bank, and he's working with me, about these CD-ROMs that we do are kind of buckshot. But can you imagine if you had an iPod where you actually had a video that target marketed each person you might have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? You spin them in, you dial them in, and it's done. And they see, like, litigation, it could be labor law, it could be any, let me show you about labor law, oh wow, this guy knows a lot, maybe I better use him, So you can start to utilize these tools, as the iPods in particular, as a good communications tool. One of the things that iTunes does is it's an aggregator, okay? It's an aggregator. Google's, Yahoo's, they're called aggregators of information. iTunes is an aggregator of now audio and video. And that's the way you need to think about it. It's not just to get music anymore. It's to get anything you want out of iTunes. And so as an aggregator, and if you're going to start to do podcasting, you want to really go in there and get familiar with the other podcasts that are in your neighborhood, so to speak, or close to you, and try to get that style. So iTunes literally swamps out all the other aggregators right now. It may change downstream. There's another place called Podcast Alley. And Podcast Alley, you download and you can do some subscription issue, but the subscription RSS feed thing isn't truly the revolution, where once they find you, they get, wherever they go, they get pushed your stuff. And it's just marvelous. And iTunes does that very, very well. iTunes is probably your safest thing because like in our case, 87% of the people that come, my 7,000, come through iTunes. And that's not just me. The industry-wide says if you're going to do one shot, shoot it into iTunes. That's it for the moment. But again, recognize Yahoo has a podcast area. Google has a podcast area. All the big guys are trying to emulate. AOL's now got a podcast area. So, and those are good places to go submit your pods too, but just focus on iTunes, okay? What iTunes means for business, I think, is that it's its business side is growing rapidly, and people are starting to understand that you can, in fact, put video on these little devices, and they look pretty good. So much so that now you saw that iTunes is selling full-length movies to get downloaded on here, and the revolution is there. Why don't you catch the wave? You know, get out there and get this stuff being on iTunes. It's free, right? At the moment it's free. And allow your clients to a connection both from a computer. They don't need an iPod to watch it, okay? They just need a computer. If they don't have a computer, I'm not so sure why we do business with them, but Tom doesn't have a computer. If they don't have a computer, that's what the printed word's for, you know. Send them a brochure or something, you know. Send them your white papers and snail mail it over to them and smile. Your 12-page direct mail campaign letters for the purpose without the computer. We can use iTunes very succinctly in our business to drive people to our site, as well as educate them, spin them up, pre-qualify them. You can start your own university if you have something you really want to talk about. You could have levels and people going through tests and buying into the thing, and it's amazing what you can do. The sky's really the limit of how you want to think about how you can use this technology to drive into your business. It's my challenge is to push you to think out of the box, to utilize technology to make money, not entertain yourself. We like to use these tools to entertain our clients, because if you're entertaining your client, you're selling them as well. Let me tell you one of the bigger secrets. When you watch, I think that's true, when you watch my little bitty CD, it has 2.5 minutes of video on it. And if you watch anything I do, I always have David J. Wormlinger talking to whoever that is. There's an interview process, right? We all like to buy, but we don't like to be sold. When you see Bobby May come up on the TV and he's got his glass of wine and he throws it down and OxyClean does this and OxyClean does that, you know you're getting sold OxyClean. You go back, is that really wine or is that colored water? You know, and you're already trying to figure out how he's scamming you, right? So if you have an interview process, you're not trying to sell them anything. It's two people talking. Oh, okay, they're not selling. Well, that's interesting what they're talking about. Well, now you caught them. So by using an interview process, which you can utilize for your podcasting, they don't think they're getting sold anything, but in fact they are. Some podcasts, Carrie was listening to some yesterday, are just so heavy in the selling, you just turn them off after a while. Just there's nothing there for them. So I always try to suggest, if you're going to do these podcasts, to kind of intermix the things and disarm them. Again, people like to buy, but they don't like to be sold. So don't hard sell them. Get them hooked on the emotion, backed up by the logic. That's why they buy. And that's how you approach all your podcasts and use of iTunes in that manner. iTunes, if something goes wrong, you can always take them off. Not a problem. Blip TV, let's talk about that for a second. Anybody think they could sit in front of a camera and do hours and hours and hours of video? I mean, do you have the kind of subject matter that could be hours and hours of video? You probably could, like blow by blow litigation. Did this? The guy fell down. Yeah, you could do that, right? Okay. So if you wanted to host that up on the site, you go, ooh, that's got to be expensive. Blip TV will allow you to upload a video up to 1 gigabyte in size, and at a compression of an MPEG-4. I'm getting geeky, I know, but that's what you see on the iPods, or MPEG-4. That 1 gigabyte, 1 hour chunk of video is really small. It's really quite small. They'll let you put up at least 1 gigabyte file at a time. That's a phenomenal number, isn't it? Okay, that's huge. I mean, this is mind-boggler. And it's free. And to serve it, it's free. They'll never charge you to serve your video. So you can sign up, you have your own show page, you upload your video, right? And then, of course, on all your blogs, all your emails, down at your signature block, you put in there, oh, I podcast, you know, here's my link, right? Go see this. You talk to your colleagues, oh, you know what? I have a video. I'm going to send you a link. You go watch that. Get you all spun up. And then we'll talk, you know. I go, oh, okay. Well, you must be a pretty important guy to be doing that, right? I'm like, darn. So, I mean, look at what starts to do for your business already, right, that you're not enjoying today. So don't think video's out of the ballpark by any means, because it's a very important thing. But it used to not be viable, economically viable. I first started Member Connect 4 years ago. I'm a very patient man. In building, and it's memberconnect.biz, not com, it's biz. We were concerned about hosting your video for 10 minutes, right? and how many views could they have a month? Well, in those days, it was about 100 views, and then we had to charge you another 50 bucks or 20 bucks or whatever the number was, but you only had 100 views. And that's probably more than sufficient for most things that people do, but I wasn't never satisfied with that. Why couldn't you go use it on your website for free? Well, what a value would that? I mean, that's a great value. Brad shoots video. Does anybody know what a 1-minute video cost you if you were going to do a commercial? About $30,000. I'm going to shoot a 10-minute finished video for 600 bucks and give it to you. I'm crazy, but the whole thing is video is really important. So I really wanted the goal of having this video. And so the company that I was working with, it charged you to serve the video. Turns out we wanted to do even more, like put full-length martial arts videos up for people to see. $2,000 a month for a video that nobody even clicks on to see yet, just to store it. So it became a cost-prohibitive type of thing. Well, now with all the new revolution, free video, unmetered bandwidth, go for it. I mean, it's completely open now. Go crazy. It doesn't cost you anything. You know, experiment. And we don't have those limitations any longer. Let's talk about, we're talking about Member Connect a little bit. Let me just continue that. I like to do business. As a matter of fact, I go to all the clubs and I do directories and I take members with me, and if I know what you're interested in, I say, oh man, you got to meet this person down here, and I facilitate that meeting. Now, that's what we're all about, right? We're here to build relationships and enrich lives. But we don't have any tools to do that other than down in the bar, you know? Now, I like to drink like the next person, but darn, you know, how much can you drink? And then you got to drive, and then they're going to catch you, and then I got to have her and him get me out of jail, and take the IT guy to help me do my business because I'm so worried, you know. So we need a better tool, and I'm campaigning to build that tool for us, where we can have local experts. Where I'm going to ask people to write for the site. I'm going to ask David to write me every month 500 words on something of value of IT. I might ask you to write me 500 words of how you got the poor guy out of a DUI or litigated or whatever it is you do. And by building a community like that with the 3 clubs that we do have, well, we can start doing, you know, work and networking back and forth with the other clubs without having become alcoholics to do that. Okay. And so one of my big goals is to utilize this technology, all this stuff we talked about, the podcasting. I'm going to be doing free podcasting. I'm going to be doing interviews. I want to know about every new member, you know, because if we don't know who our members are, how can we possibly do business with them? And I think we all agree we would prefer to do business with us than somebody out there first. If there's somebody in the club that I know does what I need, you know where I'm going. I'm going to try to utilize a club member. That is the idea. And we do that quite often. I mean, I go back and forth through these clubs, and we're always facilitating, you know, meeting, and it's going to be the business alliance groups that I want to try to hook up first into this site. And then from then we'll just see where it goes and what happens. But I'm doing it as a renegade now. It's like they're not paying me anything. I'm going to do it as a renegade, and we're just going to build this site out, and we're going to get connected, and we're going to doing some business. And that's what we're going to go do. That's what we're going to try to do. So, are there any questions on podcasting, video podcasting, blogging, iTunes, using iPods for your business? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Where do you recommend years?
Well, it depends on how serious you want to get, okay? The simplest thing to do is to get something like this. Actually, that's not true. The simplest thing to do is to get Audacity for free, go to Best Buy and buy a reasonable headset boom microphone thing, okay, that doesn't sound like you're in a tin can somewhere. All right, don't have to spend a lot of money. They have 40 bucks, 40, 50 bucks, anything in that range, and have at it. And you're done, okay, just that easy. If you want to do it in your car, doing mobile podcasting while you're waiting in traffic here in LA, they're wonderful. You get a little guy like that, okay? And they'll serve you very well. Inexpensive, inexpensive. Cheap falls apart, inexpensive is a good deal. I'm a marketing guy, okay? I market. There's another company called Gigavox.com, and Gigavox has a new thing called the Levelator. And the Levelator, if you do podcasting, this is going to hear me going, oh, and Miss Wasserman will go, well, now, what about this? And when you hear that, it's like one level's way down here, one level's up. You dump this into the Levelator, it levels everything is done. That's it. Now you go edit it. You know, then you chop it up and you move it around. Most podcasts have music in the front, some introduction, music at the end. Don't use copyrighted music. But there's royalty-free music out on the web, or make up something. There are music programs where you can actually make some little tunes or samples or whatever. Belkin also makes another product that's nice. It's a battery pack that clicks on the back of this, goes on 4 AA's. When you start running a video on the video iPods, it kind of eats up the battery pretty quick. So it's nice to have a backup like that. If you don't have an iMotion, iMotion has 4 batteries also in it, so it runs for hours. It does a very nice job. Yes. I have another website play called podcast.md, where we actually film physicians, specialists, and we cut these down to 5-minute clips that we actually sell to other physicians. But we can also deliver it to their smartphones, the Trios, for example. So he's absolutely correct. It's a sliver right now, but it is the horizon where pretty soon, when you send out your iPod stuff or your podcast, not only do you want it on this, but you want it on a Zyn, you want it on their telephone if they want to watch it on their telephone. He's absolutely correct. Yes, sir?
I mean, you can also hire some actors as well.
Ooh, no, don't do that. That would be my counsel, don't do that. I mean, I do a lot of voiceover work, and that's what I do. We produce that. And David J. Wormlinger is a professional voiceover guy. But again, people can tell the smooth voice of I'm going to be sold now, Barry White, here we go. I'm being sold. So I like to get it back to where it's human. It's really us. And if you're going to do stuff like that, get the CEO to do it, and brand them. When I go do that, I want the CEO's voice if I can help it, if I can get it there. Because when you meet him, I think I know you. Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, I'm the CEO. Oh, okay, I want to do business with you. It becomes a celebrity. You might as well use it if you can. There are other cases, and I will admit that there's nobody in the company that sounds anywhere close to being the right answer, okay? And in that case, I'm ugly, but I'm all I got, and I'll do it, so I do it. And so I'll do that. But my first choice is to find the star in the company and build all the stuff around that star, because if I do business with Miss and I'm hearing her voice, or I've even seen her on video, and the first time, oh my God, you're even prettier in real life than you were on the video. There's a connection there. They already know you. That's why I love our CD-ROMs. At CD-ROMs, you see me, and then when you meet me, you already think you're connected to me, although I don't know you. And there's some magic to that. To answer your question, a video podcast of a house would be absolutely wild and a superior product over any of the virtual tours that exist today. That indigenous thing, that kind of homey feel is what it's all about. It's not the high-end production. You hire Brad and I for high-end production. You actually hire Brad for high-end production. But I kind of like that kind of homegrown, in situ. There's no doubt about what you're doing, and you're real. And I think that comes across. I think that's the most important thing about videos. You don't want it to be fake. Your testimonials are real testimonials. They're not paid actors. And you can see them reading scripts. Get rid of that too. It's better to ad-lib it. It takes you forever, but it's a far better thing because it's real, it's trustful, coming right out of their heart, and you can tell the difference. And we don't need any more charlatans about... I very cleverly, I have a podcast on how I do mine, but I do questions and answers. And then usually when you ask the CEO or whoever to come on and you ask them to give you a set of questions to ask them, you never use those. People buy for emotion backed up by logic. They buy for benefits, not features. Features don't sell, benefits sell. So I'm back behind the camera listening to this, and Dave asks a question, CEO answers it. And they go down until they're out of gas, so to speak, and then I start asking Dave to ask him the right questions, and he goes and ad-libs it. And then I cut those into video bites and I move them around the timeline, and I can construct any piece of video you want. But it's genuine, even though it wasn't shot from one end to the other. It wasn't continuous, never is. And so that's kind of my style, and that's kind of the thing I do as a secret, which very few people do. They usually try to shoot everything in one setting and try to keep it continuous, and I just don't even do that. And if you need to split it, you do a float over. You bring in a picture or something. Or, I shot some video from the Marine Corps, and I interviewed the first guy that landed on Tarawa in World War II. And his name is
Master Guns Ed Moore. Got him at an Amtrak, and he's telling us about when he was 19 years old, going across and the bullets were coming in, and I was singing the last roundup, because I'm from Texas. And he's talking about the bullets going around, the sergeant gets hit in the neck, the blood went everywhere. Just about, I'm really captivated, right? Oh, this is cool. This kid walks right through the middle. I go, whoa, 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 whoa. We get him out of there, but Master Guns Ed Moore, he's just still going on. I go, what am I going to do with that? And I came back and, well, he was talking about a rifle that they got to put down between them and the bullets to, M1 rifle. So I found a picture and I floated that in there. Nobody knew the difference, you know. So in the cases like when you're shooting like that, and if you're going to shoot on site, you're going to get it. You're going to get the cell phones, you're going to get the people knocking on the wall, you're going to get the laughter in the background. Hopefully you don't have people walking through like we did. That happens, and you have to be prepared to either stop it and start all over, or if it's really good, you don't want to stop the guy talking. It's too good, you know. You'll fix it later. You'll do something. You'll fix it later. You know, put a picture of him smiling or something, anything. But that emotion that's coming out that's not casted, not scripted, not read, is just premium stuff that's the emotion. That's the stuff you want to capture, and that sells. The rest of that stuff doesn't do it. We actually, well, I can't pull them. You have to pull them.